Hello, everybody. My name is Max, and welcome to another listening course lesson. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at another exercise for part two. Actually, this is the third exercise we're going to take a look at. And again, we're going to see how we can predict the answers, how we can find the answers, what are the, let's say, traps in this part or this exercise. And we're going to take a look at the transcript at the end so that you find the answers 100% correctly and you understand the exercise perfectly. So without any hesitation, let's begin. All right. So in this exercise, you will hear a man called Marcus Fisher talking about mooncake, a traditional Asian bakery product. For questions 9 to 18, complete the sentences with a word or short phrase. So we know that the topic is about mooncake. So they're going to talk about mooncake and they're going to say a lot of things about this. So let's see what sentences we have and how we can find the answer or predict the answers. So the first one says, Marcus was staying in blah, 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 blah when he first tried mooncake. So staying in, so it should be a place right now. It can be a city, it can be a country, it can be, I don't know, name of a place. So that's our prediction. So be careful. It says Marcus was staying blah, blah, blah when he first tried mooncake. So we are taking a look at the first time. So you might hear a number of different names of different places, but none of it is, one of it, sorry, is the one that he's going to say it was the first time that I tried mooncake. Again, we are not looking at the same vocabulary as the first time. So probably he's going to use other words, but it has the same meaning as this one. So be careful of that as well. The next one, Marcus' favorite kind of mooncake has a filling made of blah, 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 blah. So here we can understand that it's a type of food. So it should be something that is a type of food, but be very careful because it says Marcus' favorite kind of mooncake. Again, there might be some kind of mooncake's feelings that he talks about, but one of it is his favorite. The next one, it says, Marcus says that he likes to have blah, blah, blah with mooncake. So to have, it means to eat. So we understand that he likes to eat or to drink something with mooncake. So it can be a type of drink or it can be a type of food. But remember, our cue is something that you can have with mooncake. Something that he might talk about other things that he's eating with other things, which we don't care, but you have to be very careful the things that you're talking only with mooncake. Mooncake is popular during Moon Festival, which last year was held in blah, 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 blah. So here we can understand it should be a time or it can be a place again. But one thing that is going to be very, very suspicious here is that it says last year. So we understand that it's a popular kind of festival, and it happens during the Moon Festival, which is a certain time, right? And he's going to say that probably. But what you have to be very careful is only last year. That is the answer. He might talk about other years, which you don't care. And the only thing you care is last year, the time of that. So be careful of other traps that is going to talk about. The next one, the mooncake Marcus was given during the festival had the shape of blah, 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 blah on the top. So again, another thing you have to take a look at is, first of all, we are looking at the shape. Second of all, it should be on top. He might talk about surroundings, he might talk about other places, but the only thing we care is on the top. All right, the next one. Marcus was surprised to learn that mooncake is rarely made, blah, 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 in China. So again, this one can be a place, it can be a location. But one thing you have to be very careful is that he was surprised to learn that mooncake is rarely made there. So you have to listen for something that he expected to be the case, but it was not. All right, so that's what you have to find the answer. The next one, number 15. The people Marcus was staying with received the mooncake from their blah, 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 blah. Now, this is a very tricky sentence. Let's read it one more time. The people Marcus was staying with received mooncake from their blah, 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 blah. First of all, we can predict that's a type of person, people, okay, friends, family, relatives, something like that. But what is the trap here? The trap here is that the people Marcus was staying with. So you might hear that Marcus received mooncake from someone, which that is not the answer. We only care about the people that Marcus was staying with. So what did they receive? Who did they receive mooncake from? That is our concern. We don't care if other people or even Marcus received mooncake from somebody. That is not the answer. We only care about those people that Marcus was staying with. All right, so this is our trap. So when you're reading the sentences, just like me, you have to analyze the sentences, okay? Don't just read without analyzing. Analyze everything there so that you don't fall into the traps, because the trap somehow is easily understandable before even you listen to it. We haven't listened to it, but easily we can find out the traps here. The next one, it says, his host family gave Marcus a mooncake that had a slightly blah, blah, blah flavor. Now it's easily understandable. That is a type of flavor. But definitely, again, you're going to listen to different types of flavor, and only one of it is the answer. And which one is the answer? The one that he received. If he talks about something in general, that is not the answer. We're only talking about this one that Marcus received from the family. So be, again, very careful. He might talk about other mooncakes, but that is not the answer. We are talking about the only one that the family gave him. The next one, Marcus was told that many years ago, people used the mooncakes to send blah, 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 blah to each other. So you have to find a reason that in the past, people used to send mooncakes for a specific reason. What was the reason? To send, I don't know, a message or something, I don't know. What was exactly the thing, the reason that people used to send? Now, the cue for you is here, the verb send. So be careful, because probably you're going to hear another types of verb, which is the same as a send, and that is the cue for you to understand, all right, the answer is pretty close. The last one, it says, after people had read what was written on the mooncake, they blah, blah, blah it. So here is an action. They did something with the mooncake. What can we do with the mooncake? I don't know. You can just put it somewhere, eat it. You can like do something with it, but we have to be very careful, because it was something was written on the mooncake, and after people had read that, they did something. So be careful. If they talk about something that was on other parts of mooncake, that is not our answer. It says written on the mooncake. If they talk about something inside of the mooncake, that is not the answer. Be careful, all right? This is the trap. The trap is here. It says on the mooncake. So we have to be very careful and to see when they talked about this, and then they talked about the activity, we understand that's our answer. You want to hear different types of activity with mooncake. Only one of it is referred to something that was written on top of the mooncake. All right, perfect. Now that we have all our predictions and we kind of, let's say, know what to hear, let's play the audio file. Again, you have to listen two times, and then we can take a look at all the answers together.
You will hear a man called Marcus Fisher talking about mooncake, a traditional Asian bakery product. For questions 9 to 18, complete the sentences with a word or short phrase. You have 45 seconds to look at part 2.
Mooncake has long been popular among the Chinese communities in many Western societies, and of course it first appeared in China many centuries ago, and it's also extremely popular in countries such as Indonesia and Thailand. But I hadn't actually tasted it until I visited Japan some years ago. I enjoyed it so much that since then I've eaten it in places as far apart as Vietnam and the Philippines, each time being pleasantly surprised by the differences in appearance, ingredients and flavour. Of the traditional types in China, I very much like those filled with egg, dried fruit or seeds. Though, for me, the one that really stands out has nuts inside. All of these kinds are quite sweet, as of course are the more modern varieties filled with chocolate or ice cream, though I'm not so keen on those. Whatever the type of mooncake, though, it is best accompanied by tea. I certainly drank lots of it when I was in Shanghai last year, rather than my usual favourite coffee with milk. I was fortunate enough to be there while people were celebrating the Moon Festival, an annual event that sometimes takes place in October, although last autumn it was in September. In other years, it's been held only just after the end of August. During the festival, I learnt a lot more about mooncake from the Chinese family I was staying with. I noticed the form of a rabbit on the upper surface of the one I was about to bite into, and it was pointed out to me that others may have flowers on the top, or the name of the bakers written there. Mooncake is traditionally seen as a way of bringing families closer together, so I'd assumed that most Chinese people baked their own at home. But when I asked the family about that, they said few did, mainly because it's so difficult to prepare. Nowadays, of course, people in towns and cities often buy mooncakes in supermarkets, and at that time of year, many are received as presents in gift-wrapped boxes, often from relatives or friends. Though in the case of my host family, theirs was from the employer of both the man and the woman. Although living in Shanghai, the family originally came from the city of Ningbo, further up the coast to the northeast, and as a gift, they gave me a mooncake to take with me when I left. This one differed from the generally sweet varieties found elsewhere in China, in that it tasted a little salty, on account of the fact that it was made from locally produced ingredients that included meat. By this time, I was becoming fascinated by everything connected with mooncake, and I asked the family to tell me a little about its history. They told me it first became popular in the 14th century, during the time of the Ming Revolution, when people passed on secret messages to one another as writing on the top of 4 mooncakes. To understand the code, the cakes had to be cut into 4 slices each, and then joined with those from the other cakes to complete the message. This took place on the day of the Moon Festival, which then, as it still is today, was one of the most important dates in the Chinese calendar. Once the message had been received, the evidence soon disappeared when everyone ate the mooncakes. Another legend describes the passing of messages hidden inside mooncake, although presumably in that case, the secret letter was burnt once it had been read.
That is the end of part 2.
All right, very good. Now you can listen one more time. Go back, listen again, and then we're going to check the answers together. All right, did you listen for the second time? Fantastic. Let's take a look at the answers in that case. All right, so here are the answers. So the first one, it says, Marcus was staying in Japan when he first tried mooncake. Marcus' favorite kind of mooncake has a filling made of nuts. We predicted it was a type of food. 11, Marcus says that he likes to have tea with mooncake. We will see why. Mooncake is popular during Moon Festival, which last year was held in September. There were different months, but one of it was the one that happened last year. The mooncake Marcus was given during the festival had a shape of rabbit on the top. Marcus was surprised to learn that mooncake is rarely made at home or in homes in China. Whatever you write is correct. At or in is correct. The people Marcus was staying with received mooncake from their employer or employers, both correct. His host family gave Marcus a mooncake that had a slightly salty flavor. This one had a salty flavor. Marcus was told that many years ago, people used mooncakes to send secret messages to each other. And the last one, after people had read what was written on the mooncake, they ate it. Very good. All right, now let's take a look at this script and try to see all those traps. All right, so for the first one, we can see that Marcus was staying in blah, blah, blah. It says he talked about different kind of countries. It says, for example, and of course, it appeared in China many centuries ago, and it also extremely popular in countries such as Indonesia and Thailand. But I hadn't actually tasted it until I visited Japan some years ago. So this is the answer. You see, Indonesia, Thailand, or any kind of country that he mentioned before that was just distraction. The next one, Marcus' favorite kind of mooncake has a feeling of nuts. Again, here we have to see different things that it was his favorite. It says, of course, traditional type in China, I very much like those filled with egg, dried fruit, or seed, though for me, the one that really stands out has nuts inside. That's what he really enjoys and loved. The next one, Marcus says that he likes to have blah, blah, blah with mooncake. All right, again, he says, all of those kinds are quite sweet, as of course are more modern varieties filled with chocolate or ice cream, though I'm not so keen on those. So dear, chocolate, ice cream, that is not the answer because he says I'm not keen on it. It means I don't like that. Whatever the type of mooncake though, it is the best accompanied by tea. You see, this is the best. So you can see when he says the best, he says he likes that. All right, the last one, it says mooncake is popular during the Moon Festival, which last year was held. Oh, that was the tricky one, right? It says, I was fortunate enough to be there while people were celebrating the Moon Festival, an annual event that sometimes takes place in October, although last autumn it was in September. In other years, it's been held only just after the end of August. So we have the word August, October, and September. And remember, as we mentioned, we are taking a look at last year, not other years, not normal years, just last year. And only last year, we're talking about September. And that is the answer, which we predicted also the traps. The next one, the mooncake Marcus was given during the festival had the shape of blah, blah, blah on the top. Again, as we mentioned, we're taking a look at on the top. It says, during the festival, I learned a lot more about the mooncake from the Chinese family I was staying with. I noticed the form of rabbit on the upper surface of the one I was about to bite into, and it was pointed out to me that others may have flour on the top. So that is very tricky because here it says it was pointed out to me that others may have flowers on the top. That is not the answer because it says I noticed the form of rabbit on the upper surface of the one I was about to bite. So this one had rabbit, the others, they have flower. We're talking about only the one that Marcus was given, not the other ones. So that's why it was very important. This one also important to understand the answer, to find that's the Q. Also can be a trap. Remember, Q can be a trap because you get the Q, say, oh, the answer is close, but maybe the trap is close. Who knows? All right, number 14. It says Marcus was surprised to learn that mooncake is rarely made. So it's something that he was surprised to see that rarely made in China. Right? So it says, I'd assume that most Chinese people bake their own at home. But when I asked the family about that, they said few did. So that's very rare to do that at home. So that is the answer. Although he mentioned something after that, because it says mainly because it's difficult to prepare nowadays. Of course, people in towns and cities often buy mooncakes in supermarkets. So you can also write the supermarket, but that is wrong. Why? Because this is not rare. Mostly people do that. So that's not rare, and that is not the answer. Number 15, it says, the people Marcus was staying with received mooncake from there. That was a trick again, as I mentioned earlier. It says, received as a present in gifts, wrap boxes, often from relatives or friends. So here we're not talking about host family. We're talking about other people. Though in the case of the host of my host family, theirs was from the employer of both man and the woman. So now that's the answer, because we said we were talking about the host family, not the other people. Perfect. Now let's go to the next part. Next questions. Number 16, it says his host family gave Marcus a mooncake that had a slightly blah, blah, blah flavor. Now, again, we had two different flavors here. It says this one differed from the generally sweet varieties found elsewhere in China, in that it tasted a little salty. So normally, generally, it's sweet, but this one was different and it was salty. So that is our trap. The sweet is the trap because generally it's sweet, but this one, as we mentioned, that the family gave him was salty. Be very careful. Again, when you're reading the question, underline, just like we did, predict, and be very careful not fall into the trap in these type of questions. The next one, Marcus was told that many years ago, people use mooncakes to send blah, 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 blah. So here, you can see that it says, in the 14th century, during the time of Ming Revolution, when people passed on means send. You remember I told you there's going to be a verb just like the word send. That is the verb. People send on secret messages to one another as writing on the top of 4 mooncakes. And that is the correct answer. And then the last one, it says, after people had read what was written on the mooncake, they blah, 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 it. It says, once the message had been received, the evidence soon disappeared when everyone ate the mooncakes. All right. And also he says something as well after that, which is the trap. It says, another legend describes the passing of messages hidden inside mooncake, although presumably in that case, the secret letter was burned once it had been read. So this is also, burn is your trap, because some students, they think that, oh, that's the answer, but here he said inside the mooncake, and we said on the mooncake. That is the trap. So be very careful, because it says inside, as I mentioned, it's a trap. Be very careful. We only care about what is on the mooncake, and that's why the answer is 8. The activity of eating the mooncake. All right, fabulous. Now I hope you understand how to do part 2, how to answer part 2, how to find the traps before even you listen to the audio file. You can know, and you can kind of find all these traps easily by reading and doing many exercises. You will be master it in this part. You, just like me, when you read the question, you know, you find all the traps. You kind of predict everything before you even listen, and it's not a difficult thing. It just requires a couple of times practicing easily. By doing tons of practice, you will find out all the mistakes, all the traps easily. You don't need to even listen to the audio files. Honestly, without listening to audio files, by reading the sentence, you can find all the traps. You can find what things might be in the audio file and what things we expect to have in the audio file, and how to just avoid making those mistakes while we're listening to part 2. And honestly, part 2 is one of the easiest parts. I hope you can get 10 out of 10 in this part by these tricks and tips that I told you. And hopefully you can pass this part 2 easily. All right, now you've got a couple of practices after this video, which you can do it as well to practice and to improve your listening section. And the next video, we're going to take a look at part 3, and we're going to again do a lot of good things about part 3 so that you feel 100% confident to do part 3 perfectly. All right, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.